Go ahead. We are recording now.
Okay, so welcome to our first ever Zoom town board meeting, everybody. It is about 6:32. We're starting a couple minutes late. Thanks for joining us. We'll start out with the pledge. Feel free to stand if you want to. I don't even have a flag in my basement, but just out of good habit, I'm gonna pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic
for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Carol, are you reading the first part of this? Or is that me?
That's you.
Okay. So, public hearings on the Ballston Lake Sewer District, inclusion of grant money, and the Scotch Bush Water District extension are postponed without a date. So indefinitely until we can come out of the COVID-19 mandate where you have to have less than 10 people in a gathering. We cannot proceed with that public hearing, either public hearing. We really looked at it just so the public knows. We didn't just say, oh, let's pause this. We looked at different technologies. We obviously looked at Zoom and WebEx and talked to other municipalities. And we talked to Association of Town Attorneys, our town attorney, our land management attorneys, and we were just getting feedback that it wouldn't be prudent to try to do a public hearing in this type of format. So they're unfortunately all on pause. Continuation of the public hearing on local law 2, the moratorium, is postponed as well without a date in mind. So the public will be notified when the public hearings are rescheduled for sure. We will put it on the Facebook page. I don't know if everybody out there has liked the town Facebook page, but I'm trying to put a lot of information up on there daily. So you might want to do that if you haven't done that so that you can stay informed. We're going to start out tonight. We've got a couple resolutions that we just could not wait until the 14th on. So the first one is resolution 2082, consider approving the monthly bills for March. Is there a motion?
So moved.
I think that was Councilman
John Antosky.
Curtis, or was that Councilman Antosky?
John Antosky.
I'll second that.
Okay, great. Say it would probably help, guys, and if you just say who you are, just that way the stenographer doesn't miss it.
Yeah, who seconded, please?
Charles Curtis.
Thank you.
Curtis.
Yep, and Laurel, you feel free to speak up anytime you need clarification, okay?
Thank you so much.
Yep, so any discussion on this resolution approving of the monthly bills for March? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Nobody opposed, motion carries. Next resolution up is the resolution 2083, consider approving $2,500 to be transferred from the A fund contingency line to assessor personal services line to hire a data collector at an hourly rate of $15 an hour plus mileage. Is there a motion?
So moved.
And I believe that was Councilman Antosky.
Correct. I'm sorry. Yes.
That's okay. Second.
Second, Charles Curtis.
Oh, I've got it.
Yeah,
First.
he beat you with the name, Peter. All right. So, any discussion on this matter?
On here.
Does this?
Okay. Just so the public has an idea of what this is all about. Apparently, there were some assessments in the village portion of the town that there was some inaccuracies in some of those assessments. And by allocating this money, the assessor's office will be able to hire somebody to go through and to make sure that all those are accurate. We believe that they're inaccurate in a way that doesn't favor us. So this is money well spent. It'll help to increase our tax base a little bit and make things more accurate. So All in favor of this motion, of this resolution?
Oh, John, did you have something?
I was just, it was just a matter of, my assumption was this was this year only and it's not something that's recurring, because I don't remember it being an issue in the past.
That is correct,
Right.
Councilman.
Right.
Yep. Yeah, it
That's all.
should be a one-time shot, and things will be corrected, and we'll be back on track.
And
Anybody else?
the only thing I wanted to add was the urgency of this is that it has to be done prior to April 15th.
Yes.
So it is a one-time thing, and for whatever reason, it does need to be done prior to April 15th.
Oh,
Any other discussion?
Nope.
Okay, all in favor?
aye.
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 Against? Okay, motion carries. The next resolution. It's resolution 2084, and Councilwoman Stewart was not able to attend today. She does have some comments that she wants read into the record. I'll read the resolution first, do the motion second, and then we'll hear from Carol is going to be playing the part of Councilwoman Stewart today. So resolution 2084, consider approving hiring Sarah May as bookkeeper for the town of Ballston at a salary of $41,000 effective April 13th, 2020. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Can
That
we
was
get,
that
John, we'll just do a full sweep. Go ahead, John. John's got it.
was,
okay, John's got the motion and the second.
Go
That
ahead.
okay, Chuck Curtis.
Chuck Curtis is the second on this resolution. All right, and then discussion, we'll let Councilwoman Stewart's comments be read into the record at this point. Carol?
Councilwoman Stewart states, I am in support of this. We will miss Joanne, and I thank her for her many years of service to the town. I look forward to meeting Sarah.
Okay, yeah, we will definitely miss Joanne Bouchard. If she is online tonight, that would be great that she could hear some of this feedback, but she has served the town through many administrations as a bookkeeper and done so with really high level proficiency. I relied on her quite a bit in my 3 months. So this is sad news that she's retiring, and we've put things in place where she's creating procedures and helping us to make this transition. And the reason we had to vote on this tonight is because she's leaving really soon, and we needed to train the new bookkeeper, who we feel is very well qualified, on how to do payroll, which happens on the 13th, the day before our regular town board meeting. So just keep in mind that we're in a state of emergency if you're listening out there, and we're not necessarily doing things the way we normally do things. Like normally we don't like to pass resolutions at agenda meetings, we like discussion, but this is kind of a unique set of circumstances. Anybody have any discussion on the hiring of Sarah May? We did distribute the resume, and we did check references, had a good interview.
All looks good to me. From what I read, I've not met her, but from what I've read and the comments and the reviews all sound great. That's Chuck, I'm sorry.
Yep. Eric, is this position require having a specific classification for state civil service?
Yeah, the bookkeeper, I'll give the public a little history here. The supervisor has the ability to do an at-will hire for one of two positions, either a personal secretary or a bookkeeper. So when you do an at-will, and Deb, Kaylin, you can correct me if I misspeak here, but I think I understand. When you do an at-will hire, it doesn't go through civil service. So she is being hired as an at-will bookkeeper, full-time position, and she's going to do the same type of job that Joanne Bouchard has done over the years. But we are working on fine-tuning our personnel policy. So that's going to include new job descriptions, firming up what everybody does. So this is a chance for us to kind of tweak that position to completely meet the needs of the town. And we could add or subtract job responsibilities as we deem fit too. So it is not through the civil service. We did not have to go through the pecking order and follow all those procedures.
The other is the salary rate is equivalent to, and it won't be affecting our budget for this year.
Correct. It's actually a savings.
Okay.
Eric, do you want to unmute Jeanette if she has any comments? I don't know if she did.
Okay. Jeanette, if you do have comments, you can raise your hand inside the software, and Dave Blair will be watching for that, and he can unmute you if you have anything to say. But I can speak for Jeanette a little bit until I see her unmuted, because I'm looking at her screen right now. I let Jeanette do the bulk of the interview while I listened and chimed in quite a bit. Jeanette has a high level of expertise, and I see she's unmuted now, so I'll let her take over.
I don't feel a need to take over unless there's questions from the board. I think we did have some discussions. I do look forward to Sarah coming on. I think that there's a lot of changes to come through that, as you and I have discussed, will be, I think, very healthy for inside the internal workings of the town, and better service to the board and the employees in terms of streamlining things. But I will say that Joanne will definitely be missed. So I think that bears repeating. But if there's any questions from the board members they'd like to ask, please go ahead. I can say, I guess we did ask about conflict management, because we know that that's an extremely important skill that position needs to have. And I know that I was satisfied with a series of answers that I received. And Eric, I think you and I were on the same page on that.
Yes. Any other discussion, gentlemen?
No, I'm good.
I'm good.
Okay. So all in favor of this resolution 2084?
Aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carries. Okay. I don't see on here any type of privilege of the floor. That would have happened beforehand anyway, but under this kind of modified meeting, just so everybody knows, on the April 14th meeting, we are going to have privilege of the floor, and it'll work very similar. If you haven't figured out, if you touch your screen, or if you're on a regular computer screen and you click on your screen, somewhere in the middle of your screen, you'll see a little button, and it says participants, and then you would raise your hand right there. So David Blair is part of our planning board, and he's pretty good with technology. So I asked him if he would volunteer to be the host. So there is somebody who's not part of the board volunteering his time to make sure that our meetings can go forward in a very organized manner. So next meeting on the 14th, if you want to speak on any of the resolutions, you'll be able to. He'll see the hands raised. He will select the first one to raise their hand, and then it cascades them. And he will also let you know verbally that you have the floor. Your mic will be unmuted, and we will give you the normal 5 minutes to contribute to the conversation, moving our town forward. So just a little background. We have some discussion pieces here. The next one up is hiring of MJ Engineering for planning and stormwater. give you a little background, the public, just so you have an idea of what this is all about. We've had town planners in the past. We had Sophia, and then we had Delia. We had Nan Stolzenberg on a contract basis before that. We are without a town planner right now. And even though things have slowed down, there's a lot of work that needs to be done with site work, and we need to train somebody in stormwater. And moving forward, we're going to need somebody in that position. So we looked at the civil service option to hire either a part-time or even a full-time town planner. And I did meet with two really nice, qualified ladies, and we were close to kind of moving forward with both of them at one point or another. However, one needed a full 30 hours to be the town planner, and we couldn't really swing that too easily in the way that she needed it to happen. And then the other one started out with being able to do 15 to 20 hours, but then she backed that down to 10 to 15 hours. So when that happened, we kind of reassessed things a little bit. And the option of MJ has a branch of their engineering firm that handles planning needs, and they have full-time planners on staff. So that option, even though I heard about it once, I didn't really understand how viable of an option it was at the time. We started talking about that again, and now we're talking about it in an agenda meeting. So it would be about 14 hours. And I think I sent everything out to you guys, the proposal, which I don't have in front of me right now, but I sent it out to you guys. Any discussion? I think Councilwoman Stewart wanted to read something in for the record here, so we will let Carol have the floor here momentarily.
Now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Councilwoman Stewart states, I have no issues with the reputation and experience of MJ Engineering. I do not find their fee schedule to be out of line with other firms. However, we did not budget for the large increase that this expenditure represents. It is double the amount paid to the previous planner stormwater officer for less hours provided. Even if this move to an outside firm is considered necessary for the town to provide the needed services, we still need to find this money in the 2020 budget. It is not advisable to use fund balance to cover recurring costs such as salary. I would ask if this issue has been addressed and how.
Okay. I'll go ahead and comment on that. So this is a temporary fix. Because we kind of swung and struck out several options with the civil service method, we're looking at this as about a 90-day fix while we continue the search. And it'll also help us assess, do we need a full-time planner, or could we potentially operate on even less hours than we were hiring MJ with? The interesting thing about hiring MJ would be that they're already the engineer for new projects. So anything new that comes into the planning board is reviewed by MJ Engineering. So they're going to be intimately familiar with all these projects, and they should be able to increase the efficiency because of it being in the same firm. So if you look at it like that, 90 days, getting the benefit of them getting into what the job entails and what we need as a town, although it would be taking from fund balance, it's not necessarily a permanent move. But to ignore the need of having a planner, I think is more detrimental to the town than using a little bit of fund balance to solve a problem, at least on the short term, while we continue to search and continue to evaluate whether we need a full-time planner or a planner who can do 20 hours. But I agree with Councilwoman Stewart in that respect, that it might be possible to hire somebody on a part-time basis or a full-time basis and have it not cost the town as much. If you look at other towns our size, they have a planner. That they just have one. So the fact that we didn't have one in this budget was just because we didn't have anybody lined up. And that might have been a little oversight. Maybe we should have budgeted some of that. I think some of Nan Stolzenberg is still, she's still contracted by the town to help as we look at redoing the comp plan and we look at redoing some zoning. So we can still reach out to her and hire her. But there is some money. Jeanette, you might be able to chime in. Is there no money for a planner? Is there some money for a planner budgeted for the 2020 calendar year? And she'll probably have to raise her hand, David, because she's muted. There, she's unmuted.
I actually did pull out the budget to take a look at it, and I think what I want to put forward to the board is that we've already been paying CT Mail to do some of that work for the first part of the year, so those costs are already plowing through, and there really isn't a lot of room left for all of these costs. So I think it's a matter of, as Eric has pointed out, that you've got to assess what you need, how we're going to move forward with it, and that we don't have it budgeted enough to cover the costs that are being proposed. But Eric, I thought you had asked Jenny if this was set in stone, or if this was just like a proposal and we could just pay them as we needed them. So for instance, if they didn't need to put in 14 hours and it was only 10, we were only obligated to pay them 10.
I have to clarify that with her. I know the last iteration of the contract proposal kind of had a set number of hours. So I can continue to look into that. We're not voting on this tonight, folks. We're just discussing it anyway. But
I can give you numbers on the planning. I just, like I said, I pulled it up. The planning outside professional services line, we'd put in 21,000, and some of that was for Nan Stolzenberg, and already year to date we've expended $8,000 of it, so we only have 12 grand left for 75% of the year. So we really don't have that coverage in there that we would have liked. However, in the drainage, that outside professional services, there's still 10 grand there, but still that's not enough to cover what's being proposed. So I think if we could get from MJ, look, we only want you as we need you, and not a $90,000 commitment.
Can I just weigh in a sec on that? Also,
Sure.
The governor's most recent executive order does stop what he deems, the non-essential, non-public construction. I don't know how long that's going to, be in effect. However, if you don't have the applications coming in, if the planning board isn't meeting, you don't necessarily have, this need. You don't have the construction workers out in the field. You don't necessarily have the need for that, for contracting for that monthly service.
Jenny is actually on the Zoom teleconference, and she's texting me that, hey, I'm here. So yeah, David, could you unmute Jenny so she could clarify, because she's telling me some things of interest here through text, and I want everybody to hear it.
Yeah, I'm looking for her. You have to just raise her hand.
Yeah, Jenny, go ahead and raise your hand, because there's no telling what you're referred to in the list there. See if I can find her.
Jenny, if you're on the phone, you can do *9 to raise your hand.
I don't see it, Jenny. Eric.
Okay. Well, I will tell you what she said to me via text. How's that?
Oh,
We'll
I got her.
improvise.
I got her.
Oh, good.
She finally raised her hand.
All right, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that. It took me a minute. I'm not used to the app to figure out how to raise my hand. Yeah, so what to discuss what you were just briefly talking about. So the proposal that MJ put together is an hourly not to exceed proposal. So we would only be billing you for hours expended. So, you know, as Eric said, if we only were required to work for 2 hours a week, we're only billing you for 2 hours that week. And then something else that's really important for us to point out on that is that it is a not to exceed. So what we don't want to do is, you know, have a month, for example, that, you know, say a lot of applications are coming in. We're not going to exceed that monthly rate that we propose without prior written approval from the town to exceed those fees. So again, it's just you're only paying us for what time we spend on you know, whatever work, whether it's SMO work or if it's you know, planning department work. It's just for hours spent.
Can I ask a question? And Catherine, you've been kind of our pitch hitter for town planner, and I know that there's some requirements in terms of stormwater in reporting, and also you're assisting Brian in doing some assessments of existing stormwater duties, right?
Correct.
Along with us doing the assessments on projects that are coming in. And I think that we can be safe to assume that the projects that are coming in, they're still coming in, but active construction and the urgency may not be there, but it's a constant stream of applications that are still coming in.
Sure. So I could just give a brief summary of kind of what CT Mail has been doing. Can everyone hear me? I just want to make sure.
Yeah.
Great. So since Dahlia left in September of 2019, we were asked to perform interim services for the planner and stormwater management officer. I can tell you that the work that we do is on an as-needed basis because we've always been understanding that the town really isn't budgeting for outside consultants. So concerning, you know, what we've charged for the calendar year for work, you know, we're really looking at a very budget-friendly rate for the town. Obviously, the town has copies of our invoices. You can definitely look at them. Right now, with the stormwater management officer role, all of the weekly stormwater inspections are emailed to us. We save them on our server, and at a point in time when the town does have a staff person, we would obviously get that back over to town staff. And we do quarterly stormwater inspections of each site to determine compliance. And we actually did work with Brian to cite a few sites over the past month. You know, this time of year is the hardest for stormwater inspections. When it comes to new projects, there's a lot of stuff that obviously is on hold. Be reminded that a lot of the plan review that's done for any large project is paid out under the escrow account. So that would not be covered by, we'll kind of call this town-sponsored task. So, you know, again, I do want to let the board know that this position has been fulfilled by CT Mail for the past 9 months. We are doing it only, though, on an as-needed basis. So we don't perform any work unless the building department, the planning board, or the planning chair asks us to, which is why likely, and I encourage you to pull our invoices to see that our invoicing is quite low for the work. I just wanted to let you know that that's all out there for other board members to take a look at before you make any final decisions.
So, Catherine, specific to the stormwater, I know that you're getting the reports, and I also know that there's submissions that have to go to the state. And there's also inspections. Is this something that Brian would be able to take on, or does this require a certain level of knowledge and understanding specific to stormwater?
So his knowledge is perfectly capable. He is trained on stormwater compliance. It's really the issue of, does he have time? And that's why he's asking us to really kind of triage the weekly inspections that come in. The other inspections are done by professionals that are hired by the developer. So we take a look at them, make sure if there's any issues, we determine when it yields a site visit by us. Again, we we really run everything through Brian first. You know, we're not spending the town's money just because we want to charge you for the work. Everything is done per Brian's request. So again, that's why the cost of the town for the past 9 months to utilize CT Mail in this role has been very budget friendly. But again, the only reporting to the state, Peter, to answer your question, is the MS4 annual report, which is due in June. And I do know that several municipalities and counties have petitioned the state DEC to delay that because of the pandemic. However, the county stormwater management officer, Blue Niels, he primarily helps out with that. So the effort required by town staff to do the annual report is rather not a lot of effort is needed at this point because the county does take the main role on that.
Okay.
It sounds to me like it would be a similar setup with MJ, where they would just be doing work on a need basis.
Yeah, that's correct.
Any other discussion on this, folks?
No.
Okay, if anybody wants any additional information on this, invoices or anything like that, feel free to shoot me an email and I will find those for you and email those to you, and you could kind of compare apples to apples if you want to. I'd be happy to do that. Next item up is the hiring of MJ Engineering for a targeted comprehensive plan revision. So a little bit of background, if you haven't been attending the meetings, our comprehensive plan is from 2005, December 2005. It is a general recommendation that a comprehensive plan be revisited every 5 years and completely redone every decade as towns change and plans change. Ours is 15 years old. So after listening to a presentation from MJ, which is on our Facebook page, we decided that we would probably lean more toward a targeted revision so that if the town board does approve going into a moratorium, we could focus on a targeted comprehensive plan update, because there are parts of it, I've read it, that most likely don't need tweaking. We'll leave that up to the public to a degree as we get public input, but it needs to be looked at and decided on. Is this still our vision for the town? Is this still what we'd like to see happen? And our zoning, unfortunately, in December was really adjusted quite a bit and passed without a comprehensive plan. And if you talk to planners, that's not exactly how things should go. It should be the comprehensive plan first and then zoning should follow. So the goal would be to do a targeted comprehensive plan update and then do a targeted zoning update, not a full redo on the zoning, because it is an improvement over the last zoning package in a lot of ways. And then once you have those two pieces done, you can begin a townwide GEIS or a targeted GEIS with a traffic study. And the goal in all this, so that everybody understands, is we've experienced a lot of growth over the last couple of years, and it's going to continue. Even if we were to pass a moratorium tonight, which we're not, you will see many projects going up. They've already been approved prior to myself taking office and prior to Peter taking office. They were already approved. So you're going to see a lot of construction continue. Even if we were to pass a moratorium measure in the next day or two, it's still going to keep going. So, and there's many more projects on the dock, people who are waiting to develop the town. But does it fit our plan? Can our intersections handle all the traffic? All that should be looked at. And I was speaking with Don Rhodes from LaBerge Engineering a couple weeks ago, and I was going to have him speak tonight, but it was just kind of rushed, and with the Zoom meeting, it didn't work out. But it turns out if you back the clock up, the town spent a lot of money doing a full GEIS, doing a full comprehensive plan, and they did not follow through. And I'm not going to point fingers at anybody because I look forward, I don't look in the past, but you do have to learn from mistakes. So the town did a full GEIS, looking at sewer infrastructure, water, fire, traffic, everything. And once you have that piece complete, which is not cheap to do, by the way, you can begin to charge fees to developers. So you could do a sewer infrastructure fee, you could have a parks fee, you could have a traffic fee. And we literally could have been collecting those fees for the past 15 years. That should shock some people that that did not happen. So look at our neighbor, Malta. They did the same thing and they followed through, and they put these fee structures in place, and they gathered up a pool of money from all those fees. The circles in Malta, I don't know if all of them, but a good portion of them were paid for with the traffic mitigation fees that they were charging developers from planning ahead and following through with inserting appropriate fee schedules for new development to help handle all the growth. So that's what we're trying to do. I mean, we want to do all these things so that we can begin to put those fees in place. And so we're set up for the next 10 years, the next 15 years, the next 20 years. And yeah, we'll have to revisit the comprehensive plan on occasion. But we should be gathering up those infrastructure fees to handle these things in a more intelligent way. I mean, I live over by East Line Road in Stonebridge, and there should be a circle out there. That traffic gets crazy right there. Lake and Route 50 in downtown Burnt Hills. There's room for a circle, potentially. You know how much a circle costs? A lot of money. So that's the history. I don't want to dominate. I want to hear a discussion. So chime in, please, on MJ Engineering Targeted Comprehensive Plan Revision.
Councilwoman states, in light of the plan to revise the zoning, I think that we do need to take a look at the comp plan because there are several elements in the current plan that would be out of line with some of the zoning changes that have been proposed. As this is a single shot expenditure, the use of fund balance is less concerning. However, we should be mindful that this year is likely to be light in terms of sales tax, and we may need to use some fund balance for budgeted items. Jeanette can correct me on this. It's just my impression at this moment in time. That being said, we should make every attempt to ensure that this targeted look at the comp plan is efficient and concise. I would agree with Sue Robiano in that a great deal of what is already in the comp plan will still be found to be the will of the community. We should begin with a strict plan and schedule and ask the planner what elements we might accomplish with our own resources.
Jeanette, would you mind chiming in regards to sales tax? You and I have had several discussions about how COVID-19 is going to possibly affect sales tax revenue.
Okay. I think there's also been some news that has been put out on what might happen there. I think we are going to take a hit, but I think potentially there could be offsets in that if people are at home and they're not going out, they're probably going to have a lot more delivered to their doors. So something that they may have purchased in Albany County, if they were a state worker, they might be purchasing in Saratoga County. So there might be some slight offsets there. So and that could mitigate some of the damage that definitely is going to occur from all the small businesses being shut down and being unable to provide services and therefore collect sales tax. I did go back and take a look at our 2020 budget to see what we estimated. And we are in good shape in that I think every board member that's here that's worked with me, you know that I try to shoot for the 0% increase on the sales tax. And we actually were below that for what the treasurer was projecting from Saratoga County in what we put forward in our budget. But even so, I'm thinking we might be short maybe 100 or 200,000. And seeing as A fund is the last fund to be hit that gets actually funded through this, that would be the one that would receive that, that would really receive most of that hit. So I think it's something that we definitely need to pay attention to, but we really can't tell anything. Sales tax revenues come in a 2-month delay. So it's going to be challenging, and we need to keep a careful eye on that and not jump to conclusions and see what's going to happen down the road. Our April receipt is going to represent February sales tax. Our May receipt is going to probably be the first really telling one because that will represent March receipts. So I think it's careful monitoring and being very conscious of our spending. And as Kelly points out, you know, we want to take a look at that fund balance, and we want to make sure that we have enough intact in the event that sales tax revenues take more of a hit than what we anticipated. Because at this point, we're estimating that the economy will essentially bounce back. Well, that's not really clear. So I think it's a month-by-month oversight, which you'll get from me, and I'm sure we'll be discussing this further down the road.
A couple of other items to chime in, piggyback on what Jeanette just shared is we did have $300,000 that was earmarked for Fireman's Grove, and we removed that because we didn't get a grant. So there is some money that, you know, is within the budget already that we can utilize for some of this long-term planning.
Well, that actually wasn't budget. That was actually setting aside a fund balance. So it's really, it's not, it's very separate from the 2020 budget. So I just kind of want to make that clear. That is fund balance that we have. So again, as much as I agree with you, I still think you just want to month by month take a look because none of us have a crystal ball on this.
Yeah. Agreed.
So
any other discussion?
So what it looks like, we'll be seeing some consistent numbers from all this. When we get into budget discussions in September, we should kind of have an idea where we need to go, because we're going to have to change. We're going to have to change the way we operate. But I'm thinking, from what you're saying, Jeanette, that we should have a little better handle on this by September when we start our budget discussions. Does that sound about right?
I would think so. At least I would hope so. I think we're all hoping so. So
Yeah.
I would like to say yes, but again, I don't have a crystal ball.
Right.
So-
But we'll be able to see some numbers, at least kind of probably about 3 months worth of what we're seeing now that actually comes through in September.
So I just want to kind of split this up. One, I think that it's clear that we do need to look at the comp plan. There are some core components that I think really stand the test and can be reaffirmed both by the Parks and Rec plan, the Farmland Protection Plan. Those are also pretty significant plans that were put into place after the comp plan was approved, and they're not as dated. They're more relevant, but they are in alignment. There are some things that, as Eric stated, do need to be tweaked, as some of the assumptions that were made in 2005 have since been kind of obsoleted by the increase in traffic, the the type of, residents that are still in the town, some of our water, stormwater issues. So I don't, I guess in terms of t-shirt size, right, we're looking at, like a small medium as opposed to an extra large or triple extra large in terms of effort. I think that it's clear that we do need to do that if we're going to be moving forward with zoning. So it is an important thing that we should be looking at in terms of that size. How much does it cost? My concern is also the track season, right? The sales tax, yes, it may impact that. There are people from out of town that do come up to Saratoga that increase that are not residents in Saratoga. So it's money from outside that's coming in. I don't know what that's going to look like. I don't know if people are going to be more apt to travel during the summertime into the track season, even if, COVID's kind of pushed aside or minimized at that point in time, if people even have the finances to go and do trips and travel and whatnot. So I'd like to ensure that, that we are fiscally sound when we do move forward with this. But I am in full support of having to do this update to the comp plan. The other is that if we were to approve it and start moving forward, that we are going to have a significant amount of outreach to the community, and we need to be able to provide some avenue where we can collect this information. We're already having struggles right now with just having a public hearing. And so we want to make sure that we're not excluding anyone if they don't have the capability to dial in, or they don't have a computer, or for some reason they're unable to provide input to this community-based effort, which is, adopting a new comp plan. So I don't know if the timing's right, but yes, I am fully in favor of moving forward with a very streamlined, smaller comp plan effort. So.
Yeah, hopefully we'll know more. Hopefully we'll start to flatten out the curve by the time April 14th rolls around. It's difficult. It really is a challenge. I mean, you don't want to ignore the future, but you have to deal with the reality of, financial uncertainty. So I can relate to people's concerns here.
What's the actual number attached to the resolution, the dollar amount?
Oh, Jenny, could you chime in on that one?
Eric, I think she may have dropped off.
Okay.
For the phone user. Hold on.
Here's what I remember on that issue, John, that it really depends on how much of an outreach we do. And Jenny's raising her hand right now, so she's going to chime in. You find her, David?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
Should be okay.
Yep. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So the proposal that we put together, I believe, was $17,000, and that's to do the community engagement piece and also do a diagnostic on the comprehensive plan and identify areas of the comprehensive plan that need updating. And again, that's completely finalizing the community engagement piece of it, which is really your most important piece of the comp plan, and establishing your goals and vision for the plan. And one thing to point out as well is we did help the supervisor put together a grant application that would hopefully cover about $7,000 of that fee as well. So, I'm not sure the status of that, but that seemed like also hopefully something to help offset those costs.
Yeah, and that was one thing I thought of and I wanted to bring up, just so the public knows, we are looking at every grant possibility
on my lap.
to help mitigate the financial burden here. I'm hopefully going to be working with the Capital District Economic Development Organization to get another grant to help us with the GEIS. I forget the acronym. Jenny, do you remember the?
Yeah, I think it's CDRPC. We were hoping to get some assistance from as well. And then there's some other resources through the Northern Border Commission that has a grant program that we're going to be soliciting for to help offset the GEIS costs once you get to that point. But as far as the comprehensive plan goes, definitely CDRPC is a resource that we're exploring the ability for them to offer assistance, and then as well as the Saratoga County Economic Development Grant Program to help offset costs.
Jenny, can I just ask a question? Was this the option B piece that you had sent over in terms of the proposal?
That is correct. That is option B.
Okay, and the time frame listed in there is approximately 6 to 9 months.
Yes, that's correct.
And this is Laurel. Deb, Kaylin, can you say the time frame again? You broke up.
I'm sorry, 6 to 9 months.
Thank you.
Any other discussion?
No. No. I'm good.
Okay, let's move on to the last item. Hiring of public sector consultants LLC for HR. So this is the firm that's already been working with the town to redo the personnel policy to make sure everybody has a job description, an accurate job description, to understand better how to handle all the different intricacies of HR that can happen in an organization. But this is additionally getting to use their firm as ongoing consultants throughout the year. So rather than hiring somebody to handle HR, we would have consultants to help us handle things. And I've already used them once, even though we didn't hire them. They were gracious enough to provide me with some HR information that I needed just this week. So that's kind of what this measure is all about. And I believe I forwarded everything to you as far as the costs go. And Jeanette, do you happen to remember what the ongoing costs would be?
Well, I just received a copy of the new proposal that they're putting through, or maybe it's the old one. I don't really know, but it's $600 a month. And then if we want them on site, it would be a minimum charge of 6 hours in a day at $175 an hour. So if we're looking at that, I'm not sure what our needs are. That's part of the problem, is we really don't know what those needs are. And I think we need somebody to help us sort that out so that employees know who to contact when, where, and how when they have issues and what those issues are.
I would just, so maybe, I don't know if anybody else in corporate world has gotten some of the news about the latest legislation on sick time, sick leave due to this COVID issue. This is an example of, let's say, so you got someone, Joe Whalen's team, they get COVID, right? Or one of their family gets COVID, or they've got to stay home because they've been quarantined. There's no one in the town right now that is equipped to understand and manage all of the legal issues that are going on with employee care, not even talking about benefits, not talking about getting pay, onboarding, offboarding. It's a significant amount of work, and it requires timely response. And I feel as though at this point in time, that position is pretty necessary. And if we can get someone that can field calls and that can understand what employee requirements are in terms of their benefits and in terms of what Eric may need or what Joe may need for managing staff in a very timely manner. I think it's well worth $600 a month. I consider it to be an insurance policy at some level, but also a requirement, base level requirement for just running an employee size that we've got right now. So I'm in full support of that. And if we can have most all of the work done remotely at a $600 a month, I mean, I could understand that if there was some type of event that required someone to be on site, whether it be a termination or something to that effect, I could understand that being an anomaly where, yes, you would want to have a consultant on site, but I don't know. I think that $600 a month for doing most all of the HR components, especially in this time, is somewhat of a requirement.
And they're very, very good. I had an issue this week, like I mentioned, and I was going to handle it how I thought it needed to be handled, but I knew I should check in with them. And they very tactfully, very politely corrected me and steered me down a proper course instead of making a mistake. So we don't need to be making mistakes as a town, especially when it comes to HR stuff, which, you know, there's plenty of expertise out there, but we don't have it. We currently don't have that expertise working for the town.
I did want to just, for Peter, thank you very much for the commentary. I just wanted, my understanding of what they were offering is the $600 is if one of, like you or Eric had a question, we could reach out to them and they would provide us that feedback, just as already has been done for Eric. But the on-site, that is if they actually had to deal with the paperwork, deal with the issue for one of the employees. I believe that's what it meant, but I'm not clear. It could be that they might be able to do that off-site. I don't think it's a matter of off-site versus on-site. It's a matter of they're willing to be like our point person to go to answer HR questions as they arise for $600 a month.
So Jeanette,
go ahead, Peter.
If they wanted to do something like FMLA, so someone had a FMLA claim, they'd be able to call them. We'd be able to provide a number for them to talk with someone over the phone, or would that we'd have to be the liaison in between?
I'd have to quick read what's in there.
If I could just chime in, I read over the proposal and it looks like the questions would be fielded directly by them.
And that's comforting.
Yeah, and if I could just weigh in, just certainly just in the short tenure with, you know, dealing with all the governor's orders and another issue that we had in the town, I've had the opportunity to speak with and email, and I can't even tell you on a number of occasions, and he's been very prompt, he's been accurate, objective, and in fact, most recently with regard to that poster, COVID-19 poster, it's a new federal requirement, literally within the last week. Just sent it and said, you got to do this, guys, even though the town hall is closed. But we sent it, Carol printed it out, and we're in compliance. So it's been invaluable.
I'd like to read what Councilwoman Stewart states. This is another expenditure which was not budgeted for, and so I would ask where the funds will come from. I know that HR matters can be complex and detailed, and outside expertise may be needed. When the Labor Department informed the town that we did not have a workplace violence prevention policy as required by state law, the task was assigned to me, and I researched and drafted one. As a prior member of the Personnel Committee, it was my responsibility to update this annually and keep the records updated. I can see how the board might wish to place this responsibility with an outside experienced firm, but the cost is not insignificant. How many hours of consulting are we anticipating? Is this a binding contract for a specific period of time for $600 a month? What if we have little or no HR needs in a given month? It is not a ton of money except for the one-time development of required policies and procedures. Do we have so many needs that amount to $600 a month? Also, the proposal states that the town may be responsible for travel of a consultant from Rhinebeck. Hopefully, any consultants would come from the Glenville office, but that is not specified. Prior to this, who in the town performed these functions? Could we request a reasonably detailed accounting each month of the tasks performed?
I would have to just inform the public that Joanne Bouchard was doing many tasks for the town, and a lot of the HR tasks fell in her lap. For better or for worse, she did the best that she could handling those, but it was a struggle to do her bookkeeping job and to also serve as somewhat of an HR person. But think of her doing that job. She's not going to coursework. She's not getting certification. She's not like hearing all the latest information on HR needs to be done. And that's not a good situation to be in. So I hear Kelly, maybe Jeanette has an opinion here as far as the funds and us originally, when I wasn't on board, not planning for this expenditure.
No, we haven't planned for this expenditure. However, we have a change in bookkeeper. It's imminent. We also have had personnel issues that have arisen, not just this year, but in prior years regarding HR, where it really would have been much more helpful to have a third party, outside, objective person with expertise to deal with it. Because I think what happens is that a culture gets created, and it becomes difficult for people within that culture to make decisions that, have the impact that everybody would want it to have. I think is the best way to say it. So in terms of Kelly's concerns, I understand it. I believe that when we spoke with Ronnie Travers at Public Sector HR, Carol and Deb, please correct me if I'm wrong, we did ask her if we could get out of it at any time, and I believe it was month to month. It's not like some ongoing forever contract, is the way that I understood it. And I think for $7,200 a year, it's like $7,200 having the legal, what I might say the legal expertise in a field that nobody has expertise in the town. And I think it's very wise to let a third party take that on. That would be I'm very much in favor of this, from what I've experienced in the 4 years being here, and understanding that if the bookkeeper comes in, she's coming in at a lesser price than Joanne, rightfully so. Joanne has a long number of years at the town, so there's a little bit of savings there. And in addition, the hope and the plan is that this bookkeeper can take on some of the tasks that I've been doing, which will lessen my costs to the town. So I think that this is something that could fit in there well for the town's needs and bring us up a notch, a really good notch.
And just the public needs to consider too, the town supervisor is a part-time position. I don't know how many hours a week I'm working. I'm probably averaging 30. It's pretty much a full-time job, but I'm not there all the time. And when HR issues arise, who handles it? There isn't a good answer to that question.
I think also we need to consider, we look at HR as one thing, but we're also, we are exposed in terms of our liability in ensuring that we are providing a safe workspace. And if we're not doing that and we're not comprehensive with that, then we expose ourselves to litigation that, you know, the town will end up getting the bill. The other is that if in every, I don't know how many years, it gets exponentially more difficult to maintain a workforce. And I'm sure anybody that's on the Zoom call that has a small business can understand how complex it gets when you deal with the Department of Labor. And fortunately, we have not gotten any fines from the Department of Labor on any type of infractions in processing paperwork appropriately, or you know, look backs to I-9s or any other type of documentation that needs to be provided in a very timely fashion. We haven't even gone into that. So that's included in that HR function, that, you know, we are in compliance with all of the regulatory requirements for, you know, equivalent to a small business.
Does this include, is this just the complex, or does it include highway as well as the library, or how's it, what's the approach?
I believe
it's everyone. It's everyone, John.
All right.
Except the one thing that I do want to be clear about is, you know, highway does operate under a collective bargaining agreement.
Right.
So
Right.
anything not covered under collective bargaining would fall to quote unquote the HR piece.
Yeah.
Any other discussion?
To me, this just sounds like a no-brainer. I mean, I think this is a very affordable type of insurance policy, really, for all of us. And it really specifies, you know, who's going to take care of these things rather than seeing who will take care of it. This gives us a point person. That's very important. And, you know, $600 a month, we're probably going to pick up a good portion of that just in this salary change that we'll have. But that's as far as the expense part of this, that's really the non-issue. It's what we're going to get out of this is the big plus, the way I understand it. It's a no-brainer.
Yeah, it's true, Chuck. I mean, for many years, we were a small town and we operated on a very skeleton crew, but we've grown and there's so much activity at town hall that you have to be able to hold people accountable to do their jobs. You have to be able to handle disputes. You have to be able to be compliant, as Peter says, with requirements. There's a lot to it.
Yeah, we can't just, you know, go with the scattered approach anymore, whether it's to the supervisor, bookkeeper, or financial officer. We got to have that point person. I think that's just very essential, and I'm disappointed that we haven't had that person for a long time. That's pretty sad.
Yeah, we just need to all keep praying that this COVID thing goes away before the summer, because you know that it is an unknown in all these equations. But to not plan and to just sit here frozen, I don't think is an example of leadership either.
No, we've got to keep moving forward and change our way of thinking, but we've got to keep moving with it. We can't just sit here.
Anybody else have anything that was on the agenda that you need to put out there, or?
No.
I would just like to encourage everybody who's listening, if you have not done the census report, to please take the time to do that. It is infinitely easier to do online than any other way. So you should have gotten 2 mailings by this point with the website and a code that refers to yourself or your household. and it literally will take you between 5 and 8 minutes to complete, depending on how many children you have and whatnot. But I timed it, took me 13 minutes because I went slow and I got a couple kids. But aside from that, just, stay home if you can. Go grocery shopping alone. Keep your distance. We'll get through this. I mean, if you look at the Saratoga County numbers, I know there's controversy on, time and a half issue, but they're doing a good job. You can't deny that. Our numbers are not growing exponentially at the Saratoga County level. I think we're gaining a couple cases a day versus, other communities that are just in a world of trouble with it. So, but that's really a credit to our community and to our county, staying home as much as they can. So I wish everybody well, and spend time with your families, play cards, go for walks alone, but we'll get through it, and hopefully we'll see everybody on the 14th. And I think that we'll do a motion to adjourn. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Councilman Curtis, can I get
That
a
was
second?
Curtis.
Peter Solberg is in San Francisco and he's seconding.
I second.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
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 Right.
Good night.